Welcome to Folie Douce West Island. Today on the show we have 2 interviews and 2 segments. First up, Joel interviews Yvan Pat on the history of Folie Douce. Then Joel walks us through a brief history of mental health. Then in the second half, Mike interviews Anne-Marie and Collin about their work over the years in the mental health community. And Mike gives us the top 10 ways to beat the winter blues. Stay tuned, we have a very good show coming up.
You're tuned to Folie Douce West Island, a show whose goal is to change negative perceptions of the world of mental health.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We have a very special interview for you today. As you know, we are the Folie Douce West Island, but we thought it would be important for you guys to know where exactly Folie Douce, the name, and the original show came from. So today, we have Yvan Bujold and Patrick Merrigan, the co-founders of the original Folie Douce.
Hi Joel.
Nice to be here, Joel.
Nice to be here.
Nice to have both of you gentlemen here. So we're going to, open the floor here and go, where did the name Folie Douce start? How did this whole process of having this radio show begin? Because you could have chosen any topic to do a radio show on, but you chose this topic, which by and large is not an easy topic, one to talk about or to pitch to people in order to get the space to do the radio show and whatnot. So I'm going to leave the floor open to you guys, and go ahead.
Well, first of all, Joel, we got to go back like late 80s, early 90s. I think the exact date we started was 1991.
Yeah, October 1991.
And those were the days that community organizations were, especially in mental health, were not starting out, but, it was like sort of the beginning. And at that time, in 1988, I was working on a radio station that closed down, and I was out of the job. And finally, I started working as a community worker in a day center in mental health. But for me, the challenge was because I didn't have any experience as a social worker. I didn't know too much about working in a day center, especially in a mental health day center. But at that time, also, Yvan and I were good friends. We had studied together in communications. And when I started working at the day center, Yvan knocked on the door one day and said, hey, Pat, want to do radio?
So, as it is a passion for us, the radio. And the thing is, if Patrick wouldn't work in that area, probably the show will never exist, So that's something special when you look at that from now, Also, the experience I had when I was younger at the radio, we did a show called Radio Jeunesse. It was done by the youth people. So it was done for youth, by youth. And I had the idea of doing a show by mental health people, to mental health people in a way, So the idea came like this, and as Patrick worked in that area, I did just 1 + 1, but at the beginning we didn't know if we could make it, because it was a challenge to do
Big
radio
challenge.
show on mental health with people suffering from mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what was challenging also, Joel, as in those days, community-based organizations weren't greatly funded. You know, today it is better. There's still a lot of work to do, but in the 90s, we have very limited budget. So basically, Yvan and I were passionate about the project, but no funding. So it was a lot of dedication,
volunteer work. But the thing is, because we love radio, I think we had the passion to do that show about, and also I think we both wanted to do a show to bring something to people, you know, like a social show in a way, the social facts, you know, that we can bring. And also I want to thank at this time, because it's still on the air at that station, Radio Centre-Ville. It's a real communitary radio station in Montreal, and it helped us a lot to start the show because, you know, their mandate is that, you know, to improve the services and to improve information in the society. So I think we had a good match with Radio Centre-Ville also. You know.
Absolutely. It's good that Yvan mentioned that. And the other thing is, interestingly, Joel, is that, you know, Yvan, like he was saying, he did radio with the show. He had Radio Jeunesse. I did a radio out of town, actually, in a little town called Sorel. So what we also wanted to share with our participants and the clients at that day center in those days was to share the connaissance, the knowledge we have about communications, about radio, to our participants, so then they could take the mic and start doing, you know, the show. So that was
kind of like
challenge.
I'm doing right now.
You know, 22 years later, Joel. Yeah, you're right. Exactly it. So, but we also must mention that the show Yvan started very slow. I think it was one show a month.
One show a month, half an hour a month. So half an hour a month, and then we had the opportunity to do 2 shows because at that time, you know, on the Thursday morning there were like 4 different shows for every week of the month. And then one show just stopped, so they proposed to us if we wanted to do twice a month, and then every week,
and
then 1 hour a week. You know, so in a year we just start from once a month to once a week, and we just double the time on the air also.
I remember one time, Joel, Yvan must remember, we used to have, I think it was an hour and a half show, live.
Yeah.
Was it on a Friday or a Saturday?
Saturday night.
Saturday
night, you know.
So after the hockey game, we go to the studio live and do the show. So it was a big challenge.
Okay, so the big question now is, how did you come up with the name Folie Douce?
You know something? Folie Douce, there was a song by Claude Dubois, but the song was written by Jean-Pierre Ferland.
Right.
That was called Folie Douce, you know. And at the beginning, when we proposed a project at Radio Centre-Ville, we said Douce Folie. The name would be Douce Folie.
Right.
But they made a mistake and they inversed the Douce Folie to Folie Douce. And then we say, why not? We're going to keep it like this, you know, Folie Douce. It was a way of telling the people we want to talk about mental health, but in a soft way, you know, like Folie, in a douce, you know, like so we can talk a hard subject, but on a soft way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the show, I don't know, Yvan, you're up to how many shows now?
600 and something. We try to get to the 1,000 show if we get there, you know. But that's a goal we have. You know?
Yeah, that's a good goal to get to. So, would you guys have imagined that it would get to the point that it is now, where not only do you have the radio show going, but I know the reason that I'm sitting here right now doing what I'm doing, and so many other people have gotten to benefit from you, Yvan, going to the different locations and whatnot and offering the programs. Did you ever imagine it would get to this point? And also it must be very gratifying for you to be able to reach out to so many people over the past year.
Yeah. For me, I wouldn't think that I would do a show like for so many years like this, you know. There was a lot of taboo about mental health. I thought that time that it will get better and better. It got better, but not as much as I thought at the beginning. We still have problems. We need a show like this.
Well, we got we have a few seconds left, Joel. I must say, I must give a lot of credit to Yvan, because when we started the show, Yes, I was working in a day center, but we worked together almost 5 years doing the show, and Yvan did another 17 to 18 years, right? So a lot of credit and dedication goes to Yvan.
And just in closing, on behalf of myself and everybody else, we would like to thank both of you for allowing us to have this opportunity. And thank you for doing the interview with us today.
And I'm glad that Folie Douce West Island exists also. It's a good project also.
Let's hope it goes another 20.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Welcome to the evolution of mental health. I'm pleased to be speaking with Joel McCuaig, and he'll be talking about the history of mental health in brief.
Well, thank you, Randy. Let's take a walk down memory lane, shall we? Mental health memory lane. Let's start back in ancient Egypt. See, back in ancient Egypt, there were documents known as the Ebers Papyrus, and they appear to describe disordered states of concentration and attention and emotional distress in the heart or mind. The next time you see reference of mental health would be in ancient Hindu and Punjabi scriptures, contain fictional descriptions of depression and anxiety states. Mental disorders were generally thought to reflect abstract metaphysical entities, supernatural agents, sorcery, or witchcraft. The next time that it's mentioned is in the traditional Chinese medicine by herbs, acupuncture, or emotional therapy. The inner canon of the Yellow Emperor describes symptoms, mechanisms, and therapies for mental illness, emphasizing connections between bodily organs and emotions. Next, we move on to Greece. In ancient Greece and Rome, madness was associated stereotypically with aimless wandering and violence. However, Socrates considered positive aspects including prophesizing, a manic art, mystical incantations and rituals, poetic inspiration, and the madness of lovers. Next, we move on to the Hebrew and Israelite. Mental disorder was not a problem like any other caused by one of the gods, but rather caused by problems in the relationship between the individual and God. Now we'll take a bit of a leap and go to the Middle Ages. We'll start with Persia, Arabia, and the Muslim Empire. Mental disorders were generally connected to the loss of reason, and writings covered links between the brain and disorders, and spiritual / mystical meaning of disorders. Wrote about fear and anxiety, anger and aggression, sadness and depression, and obsession. Now we move on to Christian Europe. Conceptions of madness in the Middle Ages in Europe were a mixture of the divine, diabolical, magical, and transcendental. Now we go to the modern age, the 16th and 18th centuries. Some mentally disturbed people may have been victims of the witch hunts that spread in waves in early modern Europe. However, those judged insane were increasingly admitted to local workhouses, poorhouses, and jails, or sometimes to the new private madhouses. Moving on to the 19th century. In the context of industrialization and population growth, saw a massive expansion of the number and size of insane asylums in early Western country, a process called the Great Confinement, or the Asylum Era. Moving on to the 20th century. The turn of the 20th century saw the development of psychoanalysis. Freud was a leader in this development. Asylum superintendents sought to improve the image and medical status of their profession. Asylum inmates were increasingly referred to as patients, and asylums renamed as hospitals. World War II saw the development in the U.S. of new psychiatric manual for categorizing mental disorders, which, along with existing systems for collecting census and hospital statistics, led to the first diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders, DSM. The International Classification of Diseases followed suit with a section on mental disorders. And finally, between 1917 and 1970, the number of psychiatrists practicing outside institutions swelled from 8% to 66%. Also of note, cognitive behavioral therapy was developed, and psychiatric medication gradually came into use into the 1970s and has been further developed until the current day. And that's a brief history of mental disorders in history.
Thank you, Joel, for that informative presentation. If you need more information, you can type History of Mental Disorders at Wikipedia.
Hi, I'd like to welcome Anne-Marie Schreiner and Collin Courtois. Welcome, the two of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be discussing their work in the mental health field over the years. To start off with, Anne-Marie, and both of you, but first Anne-Marie, what has changed over the years in the mental health field?
Well, I believe there have been many, many changes, but I think the most pronounced change that I've seen is the willingness and the openness to talk more about mental health and not pretend that it doesn't exist or hide it away somewhere.
Yeah. How about you, Collin? What do you...
Well, I believe that's, in fact, exactly right on, because throughout the years, when I started in the West Island, a lot of people were sort of hidden away. And because I guess people saw mental illness as, like a horror movie. Whereas today we see it as a regular illness. I mean, that or diabetes. I mean, we can help people who suffer from an illness as opposed to the way it was seen decades ago. So it's made things an awful lot easier for everybody, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there's been the medications that have changed over the years as well that perhaps have gotten a bit better.
Well, that's of paramount importance. Without that, people go on suffering a lot with all sorts of horrific symptoms, whereas medication can decrease that significantly. Then you can start working on developing other skills that are extremely important and that were left by the wayside because the symptoms were so powerful and overwhelming, it wasn't possible to help people.
Yeah. So that's great. So what keeps you guys going? I think it's important for you, the clients. Is that right?
I believe it's the stories that I've heard through the years that, come to make up many of the people I've met. So they're stories. It's a history. It's fun. It's fun to listen to stories. I think Collin would agree with me.
Well, I guess what you're asking is sort of to define the work of a community worker in mental health and the value of that kind of work. And essentially what keeps us there is exactly what Anne-Marie is saying, what is confided in us. The place that people give us is the reason we're continuing with this. It's certainly not the money and the Mercedes that's outside, That just doesn't happen.
No.
It's the privileged relationship we have with our clients. I have nothing against people in sales, but that's not the kind of work that we do, meaning...
people work.
That's right.
Yeah.
The focus is not on a third element, which would be like profit or substance or whatever. It's the human being.
Yeah.
It's the rapport we have with people, and it's both ways. The fact that we have no power gives us all the power in the world to interact with people. You're not walking in there with your white coat with power over people.
Yeah.
It's same eye level. We're two human people, and we're going to deal with a problem here in the hopes that everybody comes out a winner here.
Yeah. No, it's great. I mean, I've been working with Anne-Marie actually for years. I'll take this time to thank her and you too, Collin, for all the work you've done to help people. But I can say from personal experience, it's like a cheerleader, just a shoulder to cry on. It's just really great, and I thank both of you for all the work you've done. So, what would be let's say the challenges and rewards? I wanted to get into that.
I'd like to address the rewards as again the privileged relationship that I've I've had with all of my clients through the years, and how much it's given back to me as well. I've learned so very much about mental health, about well-being, about sharing, about playing in a team, playing on a team, working with my coworkers as well has been an absolute joy and a learning experience. The challenges, well, there's many, and I'll let Collin address the challenges because he's been in two different types of settings, a hospital plus a community setting, and I've only had the privilege of working in a community setting, so I'll let you address that.
Well, boy, challenges.
Well,
there's quite a few of them, in fact.
Yes.
But I guess in the eyes of a community worker, I guess the main challenge would be what I think I learned throughout the years is to know your place, essentially, in the relationship you have with your client. What is it who is the expert here? And I learned a long time ago from a fantastic lady whose name is Birgit Ritzhop. She was my first sort of mentor in the field, that the expert is your client.
Yeah, nice.
And you're a tool.
Yeah.
And nothing more.
Nice.
And that's an amazing lesson to learn. It's not that difficult, really, if you believe in what you're doing and if you love the people you're doing it with. And I guess that's why the word challenge to me is a little bizarre, because it wasn't a challenge. It was a path, and it's a great path. And there were fantastic people all the way along. And if I had to redo the whole thing, believe me, I would redo exactly the way it was done.
That's great, yeah. It must be rewarding when you see, like, you know, you come in and someone's been struggling and finally things seem to be going a bit better. I mean, you must try not to get up and down with every up and down of the client. But you know what I mean? Like,
you're right. You can't go the same way, otherwise I guess you wouldn't help that much.
No.
But emotionally speaking, you do go up and down.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
Because you feel
the
pain.
like you... Yeah.
You may not feel it identical because it's not essentially your...
Yeah, it's more sympathy than empathy, I guess, yeah.
And you have to... Well, if you want to accompany someone, obviously you're not going to be as cold as a dead fish. You're going to go up and down emotionally, but you can't necessarily show it to its full extent because you have a duo of people here working towards a goal. You can't lose sight of that goal, but that doesn't mean you can't lose sight of the feeling and the pain and the hope. Because if you do that, well, you don't know where you're going anymore.
Yeah, the hope, the light at the end of the tunnel.
So you have to feel it, but not get overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. So
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, not get overwhelmed by, let's say, the pain that's there, but also have a vision that things will get better and have a hope that things can improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So we're just winding down with our time now. So it's been very rewarding for you guys over the years, and we'd like to thank you again for helping out, and it's fantastic what you do. And so thank you very much, and we'd like to wrap it up now. And any final words you'd like to say, just of your experience over the years?
Well, again, I guess I'd like to thank you guys for having been there and having allowed us into your hearts and into your lives. And that was, for me, the greatest prize of this whole enterprise, I guess, or this whole journey.
That's great.
Was to have been taken in your lives.
Yeah. Would you say the same, Anne-Marie?
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
And it's been fun too. There's been a lot of
humor.
Of fun.
Yeah, a lot of humor. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah. It's been been good.
That's
Thank
good.
you, Michael.
That's good. Well, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, both of you. So, thank you very much, and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're listening to Folie Douce West Island, providing valuable information on the world of mental health.
Hello, Randy here with Michael Miller and his top 10 ways to beat the winter blues.
Thanks, Randy. Welcome, everyone. Yes, I'm going to present the 10 cool ways to beat the winter blues. When winter comes, as the days get shorter and the nights get colder, even the best of us can get a little down. The winter blues are characterized by the mild depression, lack of motivation, and low energy that many people experience during this cold season. Luckily, there's a lot you can do to both prevent the blues from coming on and get yourself back to normal if they're already here. The first one is exercise. Exercise helps your mind by releasing those feel-good chemicals that improve your mood. I like to take walks myself when it's not too cold. Second one is to eat a healthy diet. Try to incorporate more complex carbohydrates like whole wheat breads, brown rice, veggies, and fruit, and get your daily 8 cups of water. The third thing to beat the winter blues is to get some sun. Sunlight improves your mood. Similar to exercise, sunlight exposure releases neurotransmitters in the brain that affect mood. Try to spend a little more time outdoors. Keep your shades up during the day to let more light in. The fourth thing is to act on your resolutions. Do those good things you plan to do. The fifth thing is to avoid binge drinking. Alcohol is actually a depressant, and rather than improving your mood, it only makes it worse. Avoiding alcohol when you are already depressed is a good idea. The sixth thing is to treat yourself. Plan something that's exciting to you. A weekend trip, a day at the spa, a party, or a special event like a play or movie, girls or guys night out, or sporting event. The seventh thing to beat the winter blues is to relax. Take a warm bath is my particular choice, or read a book or magazine, sleep in on the weekend, go to bed early, try some meditations, or take a yoga class. The eighth thing is to embrace the season. Instead of always avoiding the cold and the snow, look for the best that it has to offer. Take up a winter sport like ice skating, snowboarding, hockey, or even sledding. The ninth thing is to get social support. Don't underestimate the power of friends, family, mentors, co-workers, and neighbors. Keep a mental list of these special people, and don't be afraid to ask for help or encouragement when you need it. The 10th and last thing to beat the winter blues is to catch some Z's. Aim for 7 to 8 hours sleep per night, and try to keep your bedtime and waking time consistent. Try not to oversleep. Those 12-hour snoozes on the weekend can actually make you more tired. Don't forget naps. So that's it for the top 10 ways to beat the winter blues. I hope this information is helpful. If you need more information, search How to Beat the Winter Blues on the internet.
Thank you, Michael, for those interesting tips. That was our show for today. I'd like to thank Anne-Marie Shiner and Collin Courtois, and also Yvan Bujold and Patrick Merrigan, and our interviewers Joel McCuaig.
Thanks for listening. A pleasure as always.
And Michael Miller.
Yeah, thanks for listening. It was a lot of fun.
See you soon on the next show of Folie Douce West Island. Keep mental health on your mind. This is Randall Hague saying see you for now.